Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe my channel. Ilara Vance moved through the crystalline towers of the Omninet global complex like a comet, bright, fast, and often leaving a trail of beautiful, dangerous disruption in her wake. She was the star anchor of Morning Sphere, the network's flagship news program. Her voice a daily fixture in the neural feeds of billions across the Federation. Yet today, the silence in the executive corridor was louder than any broadcast. The crisis had erupted not on the airwaves, but in the flicker of a single digital post. It concerned the newly elected guild leader, Keir, a populist reformer whose platform promised a radical decentralization of power. Ilara, known for her sharp commentary, had offered a philosophical take on Keir's victory that went viral for all the wrong reasons. Some predict Keir will revive the old ways, perhaps even invoke the Code of Aethel, her post began, uploaded to her personal feed at 03 Cycle. He might, but the true heart of the Code of Aethel lies in communal welfare, resource fairness, and cohesive societal structures. Modern systems, despite their flaws, operate a hybrid of ancient ethical codes and civil protocols, evolving past unethical practices, despite the consortium's narrow portrayal. The Code of Aethel was an antique pre-Federation ethical framework, often cited by historians and rarely mentioned in modern discourse, except as a cautionary tale of rigid governance. While Ilara meant to highlight the common ethical ground between the ancient code's founding ideals and Keir's progressive agenda, the pursuit of social justice, the digital echo chamber distorted her message into an apparent endorsement of fundamentalism. Within hours, the post was amplified into a systemic failure. The flicker of outrage became a firewall of corporate panic. Omninet Global was not merely a media network, it was an investment vehicle, currently engaged in the most critical negotiation of the fiscal year, a multi-trillion credit merger with the Zenith conglomerate, the Federation's rival data behemoth. The deal was set to close in 72 hours, and Ilara's post had thrown a wrench into the meticulously calibrated gears of finance. The call came from Marcus Vane, the CEO, a man whose calm demeanor was legendary, but whose voice now carried the brittle tension of stressed ferrosteel. Ilara was escorted past the holographic receptionist and into Vane's sky-high office, which overlooked the smog-choked, neon-drenched cityscape. Vane sat behind a black glass desk, his hands steepled. Beside him was the network's head of regulatory affairs, Director Theron, who wore the permanently pained expression of a man whose career was measured in liability waivers. Ilara, Vane began, skipping the pleasantries that usually lubricated their interactions. We need to discuss the Aethel post, specifically the fallout concerning the Zenith merger. Ilara didn't flinch. Marcus, I clarified the post 24 hours ago. My statement was about the philosophical root of Keir's platform, aligning his pursuit of communal welfare with the initial purely ethical tenets of the Code of Aethel, before it was corrupted by the governance structures of the old dynasties. It was a comparative ethics commentary, not an endorsement of obsolete law. We understand your intellectual intent, Ilara. Director Theron cut in, his voice a dry rasp. But the market doesn't trade on intellectual intent. It trades on perception. And the perception is that Omninet's highest-profile talent is flirting with anti-consortium rhetoric just as we finalize the acquisition. Zenith's board is nervous. They see risk, and risk costs credits, billions of them. Vane leaned forward, his gaze unnervingly steady. Hours earlier, the data was finalized. The deal was essentially done. York Post created an arbitrage opportunity for short sellers, and it gave Zenith pause. They're questioning our brand stability. We need more than a clarification, Ilara. We need damage control. You need to understand that the personal platform you cultivate is inseparable from the OmniNet brand, especially when the stakes are this high. The conversation that followed was a carefully choreographed dance of corporate maneuvering and public relations strategy. They needed a public statement that simultaneously stood by Ilara, their most profitable asset, while performing ritualistic corporate penance for her lapsus linguae. Leaving the tower 2 hours later, Ilara felt the cool, sterile air of the upper city against her face. She knew the story wasn't really about the guild leader or the ancient code. It was about silence. It was about the price of a critical voice in an echo chamber powered by mergers and shareholder confidence. She had been forced to temper her conviction with corporate necessity, a bitter draught to swallow. Below, the neon city lights shimmered, indifferent to the ethical compromises made in the towers above. Ilara had saved the merger, but she wondered, as the skycard descended toward her private residence, whether she had lost something far more valuable in the process. The crystalline silence of corporate agreement now felt louder and more confining than any digital uproar.